Welcome in, folks. For those who do not know, my name is Guest, also known as It's Guest Gaming. I'm a full-time Twitch-partnered content creator from New York, but living in Brazil, focused on epic sax parties, having fun, and Marvel Snap. I'm also regularly on YouTube, where you can also catch replays of the live Marvel Snap tournaments that I have the privilege of casting and hosting. Enough about me, though. Let's talk Blink, the new Marvel Snap Season Pass card. Blink is a 5-cost, 7-power card. With an on-reveal, swap the last card you played with a higher cost card from your deck. So think of it like a retroactive style lockjaw, where you must be able to see on the board the last card you played, and you must have a higher cost card in your deck still remaining for the swap to be able to happen. The retro ramp is a mechanic we have never seen before in Marvel Snap. With that said, there are a couple of mechanics that you really should know about. Okay, number one, she is going to be looking at base cost, not modified cost. So those She-Hulks and Mockingbirds and Pigs even, they will be looking at their original cost when they're starting in the deck, or they're starting as the last card played. Either part of that Blink mechanic, both will be looking at base cost. So Mockingbird, easiest example, she will always be referenced as a 5-cost card. Also be wary that if you do not find a higher cost card in your deck, it will simply say no target. Same thing will also apply if the last card that you played isn't on the battlefield anymore, whether it was destroyed or you threw it into Lockjaw, something of that nature. If it's not there anymore, kind of like Absorbing Man, it's just not going to do anything because Blink can't find the original target. Additionally, with Lockjaw, let it be noted that if you play Blink on top of Lockjaw, Lockjaw will swap out, but the Blink will remain on the battlefield. So let's get to the nitty-gritty here of why you're most likely here: deck lists and gameplay. I'm going to showcase one of them in particular towards the end, and the rest of these we will take a look at, but we'll go into a super amount of breakdown on each individual deck live during Twitch drops. Twitch drops start on May 7th. That's Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is noon Eastern Standard Time. You know the drill: 2 hours, 4 hours, and 6 hours of watching your favorite content creator, hopefully me, over on Twitch will gain you a bunch of rewards. I look forward to seeing you there as we test both Nocturne and Blink. Here are 8 quick ideas on what to do with the brand new Season Pass card, Blink. First up, Blink and you'll miss it. This one I'm putting first and foremost because it is probably the most opium out of all of them. Look, put out something, try to swap it for Galactus, because Galactus is the only card there that can give you the big effect at 6 cost. This is a pretty straightforward destroy-focused ramp-ish sort of Nimrod Galactus deck. I think enough is really being said here on this one. Black and Blink. We're taking the black and red deck and adapting it here for Blink because Black Knight very heavily wants to have another, well, use case, another out clause. And now having that later turn 4 play where you could go ahead and get down, let's say, Hope Summers plus the Black Knight, now you can Blink on turn 5 and transform that Black Knight into Red Hulk, Giganto, or Infinite. And yes, you can substitute out the Red Hulk, if you will, for your favorite large cost Magneto, Hulk, etc. Both work absolutely fine here. War Machine is a preference just because it gives you the flexibility of being able to play down that Infinite, but again, another swappable card here. We move into the old switcheroo, which is showcasing both Lockjaw and Blink. So now we have a couple of different lines built in. You've got the Wong, Black Panther, Arnim Zola line. You do have Lockjaw being able to toss in the Wasp and the, yes, M'Baku, because M'Baku's just a lot of fun, let's be honest here. And now you can also toss in the Electro, you can toss in the Jubilee. So that mechanic has always been in existence, but now we can look to spread a little bit wider here using the Doctor Doom and the Odin mechanic, because Blink can help accelerate even on turn 5 by playing down Wasp and Blink, or putting down the M'Baku that happened to always get drawn into your hand, at least so it seems, and then play it on the battlefield and swap it back into the deck via Blink. So we have 2 ways to replace M'Baku now, and I think the old switcheroo might do something for that. So we'll give that one a shot too. Hela and a Blink. A lot of people are talking about this type of deck. I think it's pretty straightforward as well, that Blink is there to accelerate an extra 6-cost card if you need to play it on down, or you're trying to swap something in at the last second because you're holding the other 6 drops, but you are not holding, well, the most important one in this deck, Hela. And you can use Blink as another switch mechanic to put down MODOK into Blink, knowing that MODOK will transform a swap into, well, Hela at that point. So you've got a couple of possible mechanics you can work with here. The Invisible Woman, therefore, will be incredibly important, but it gives you another outpace clause. Loki, I know you don't want to hear this. I know you don't want to hear this, and I'm sorry, but it works. Because now you're really leaning heavily into the idea that Loki is going to do a swap. You leave Blink as the only 5-cost card that does so, because Mockingbird is most likely going to get down beforehand anyway, given the cheaper reductions that she plays out. So Loki's your only 4-cost card. Blink gives you that second out mechanic to guarantee to hit Loki, and the only other real viable option that it would hit at that time, especially if you play that 3-cost card as the last card played, Mockingbird and Loki end up being win-win scenarios for this deck. I like Blink in Loki, and I'm sorry in advance for having to mention it. You blink and surf. Yeah, Surfer. I know, it's weird. You reduce down the number of 3 costs, but you actually increase the amount of total power because you guarantee, in a way, that Serra is going to come down on the battlefield. And the organic line that also plays really well into here is if you don't draw that Serra, well, Brood into Absorbing Man, Absorbing Man's the one that gets swapped out and replaced for Serra. I really like having that option of putting him back into the deck, then cheapening everything because Serra's now on the battlefield. And just like we talked about with the Loki deck, Mockingbird also is most likely going to be ramped out probably a little bit earlier anyway. So Silver Surfer ends up seeing some benefit from Blink because Serra specifically is a great target for it. Lastly, we now work towards the overall top projected use case for Blink, and that is going to be today's featured deck, which is a ramp deck that I've named the Power On Powerhouse in honor of my teammates over at Power On Gaming. Also an exclusive apology to Super Tech God because there's no Infinite here, just because I wanted another playable turn 6 card. But let's take a look at the Power On Powerhouse, which is ramp, 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 followed by ramp, because I did some testing with different styles of ramp, and sometimes you like to play Psylocke. You know what Psylocke also likes to do? The Blink switched into Electro, and that never feels good. So having just Electro, Wave, and Jubilee helps to really minimize the targeting for Blink in this style of deck. Whether Electro goes into Blink and then disappears and now you have your bonus energy, whether you look at Wave into Doctor Doom and just run a standard ramp line, but there are cards you can substitute here because Red Hulk obviously is not in everybody's collection as well, so you can play in another large 6-cost card in particular, like the Infinite Tech. I can hear you from here. So we'll try and get in some extra cards via that Blink mechanic, because swapping out the Jubilee, swapping out the Electro, even swapping out the Wave feels incredibly powerful in this matchup. And towards the very end, having even the last-minute flexibility of putting down Vision plus Jeff on turn 6 because of that Electro Blink swap, that's an extra nice little piece that a lot of players aren't projecting, which is why Jeff makes the cut in the Power On Powerhouse. So instead of just showing gameplay of Blink, I thought I'd do something that no one else has done yet before here on this channel. I'm gonna cast these games as if we're in a fictional Marvel Snap tournament. So let's have some fun here with Blink. Let's see what this Blink deck can actually do, ladies and gentlemen, as Power On's going up against Luciano and starts with the opening draw of Electro, Jubilee, Vision, and Odin. Not really going to be too beneficial for the rickety bridge over with Jubilee, but everybody skips. Let's move on to turn number 2. Starlight Citadel's now going to make this a lot more interesting as Blink gets drawn on turn 2. So now we're looking at trying to figure out exactly where Blink is going to need to go, and a little bit of a risky play for that Daredevil, assuming that nothing's going to drop on turn 3 or 4. This looks like a safe call to go ahead and destroy the Daredevil right now, and they're opting to actually get rid of Starlit Citadel via their Chibi Storm. Here goes the Electro, put the extra power in, and let's get rid of that Daredevil and Electro simultaneously. Good, easy snap right here, as now we are sitting on the line of Jubilee into Blink. But with Hala on the board, it is also a little risky of you're not sure what they're going to drop. Is it going to be into Hala and overtake that power? But instead, we're going to have a Jubilee on Jubilee pull here into flooding, and a big Magneto gets pulled for Luciano as we only sit on a weaker Wave. this might be the first appearance for Blink, which means we're gonna see a power-up swap happen. So, yep, go ahead and take that up extra piece, where if we look at the rest of the deck, there are some bigger cards that can be pulled out here. Which one will it be, though? As they play 2 times, they play the Sunspot into Wave to kill everything down in the Rickety Bridge, but Blink transforms into Magneto, dragging that Wave over and keeping the Sunspot alive in Rickety Bridge. Now there's a risk over in your left-hand side here, and you gotta figure out what's gonna take it over the top. We gotta snap back, so this is going now for 8 cubes as Dr. Doom and Jeff. Dr. Doom's gonna be an easy way to snipe that middle lane, because there's no way for the acceleration. Even if we do see an overpowering for something from Blue Marvel, we could have played that Jeff over to the side, but they only have a Shang-Chi as the tallest, and priority is important even if it played on out. There goes the Rickety Bridge, completely toss it on out. That's 8 cubes. Take the Flooded, take the Hala. Let's move over to game number 2. Sauron versus Orion, as we open up turn 1 with Vision, Leader, and Blink in the hand with a Mirror Dimension, so a little bit of unpredictability going into turn number 1. Probably a simple skip for both sides, not knowing what's going to happen. Nope, correction, we do have an America Chavez dropping on down for the first time. Loving those card backs, must say, must say, must say. Nova Roma going to give us that easy draw. Here we go, sit on another 6-cost card. Blink looking to get some work done as she sits in the hand, and we draw the Electro with an immediate snap in response, as Sunspot, who had that America Chavez buff already pre-applied, has been put down into the middle lane, and a Vormir now on turn 3. So we do have the option of taking the Electro and putting it into Vormir, but instead we're gonna opt to blink it out and do something different that way to get more cards out on the battlefield. Remember, in Vormir, we do have several different ways to reach over there. We have the Vision that can reach over there. We have the Jeff that can move over there. We also have Dr. Doom that can play on over there, a couple of different mechanics. And Nova Roma is the transformed location, so we end up with more and more and more cards. Let's go ahead and blink now and have that Electro transform into, well, it could be a variety of different things. Let's see what we get hit as they drop down their own Jubilee into Nova Roma on the left, pulls on down. A Wave, a taste of their own medicine on the opposite side. Here goes the blink, throw it on down, bring it on back. It's a Jubilee, which guarantees then another pull. That could be a Giganto. So even in that exchange, you do see the power of blink helping to get those bigger cards out. We redraw the Wave as a potential option here, but instead are going to take advantage of how that Wave dropped down and disappeared. Here comes a Dr. Doom, so they're spreading similarly to what we were talking about a moment ago, but Magneto has nothing to pull. We have secured the Nova Roma potentially at this point. We could still see something cheeky, but now we've got a move mechanic in Jeff to help baby steal Vormir, and neither player has played yet into Vormir, so something will have to get destroyed at some point if either player wants to play on down. There is the option, yep, there is the option right there of the Dr. Doom, assuming that we're not going to see 2 cards drop into Vormir from Orion, which would give us the small edge of 8, and they only play 1. It's going to be a destroy line as Leader comes on down. Woo! Puts his own Dr. Doom down, and because of the clogged lane, thank you to Blink for giving us that Giganto is all said and done. We thought we stole the Vormir, but instead we end up sniping the mid due to the surprise Leader from Orion. We move into game number 3 now as we see Poweron taking on SV, and we open up with a Wave, Jubilee, and kind of a build your own lockjaw situation with the Quantum Tunnel now existing. So it's a swap on pull on swap exchange here. Sokovia is going to get rid of one of those ramp options as it tosses their Ultron, which would have been huge to fill up that Quantum Tunnel towards the end of the match. We do end up with Blink in our hand at turn number 2 and look to see if we can get some swap mechanics to pay on out over in the Quantum Tunnel. Now remember, as we talked about with the way that Blink works, if Jubilee gets tossed into the Quantum Tunnel, it will disappear into the deck, and if you attempt to blink afterwards, well, Blink can't find anything, therefore the effect will not work. So Ant-Man ends up getting Quantum Tunneled out as we start over to turn 3 with a Dark Dimension. Maybe a little bit of a cheek mechanic here that you can hide behind, put that Odin down in there on the final turn, but instead, gonna opt for the Jeff, throw it into the Quantum Tunnel, kind of take advantage of a build your own lockjaw situation. since we're sitting on so many 6-cost cards. They're going to be playing, there's that Patriot, which would have lined brilliantly. And now we're stuck, unfortunately, with an Electro, so we're limited to 1 card per play. Jubilee's probably the safest option here, I would say, because you're sitting on Blink to ramp it out after. Mystique is going to copy over that Patriot, disappear, and then reappear, try to get the pull later as a Squirrel Girl spreads the power wide, keeping it a permanent advantage over in the Dark Dimension at the moment, as Jubilee drops a ginormous Magneto into the middle lane. Tough call here, but looking for a double Blink moment. We do have Blink disappearing as the White Tigers start making their appearance for the very first time. Here goes the Blink, toss in the Jubilee, pop out the Dr. Doom, disappears that Blink, puts down the Jeff. So now we have a slide mechanic built in as well with a 2-lane lead. So Leader is a potential option here to try to stay over the top, but instead going for those safety play of the Doom bots. It looks like we're going to be able to probably lock down the Quantum Tunnel by having just the extra 2 power increase on that Doom bot versus Jeff. It looks like they're not clogging the Quantum Tunnel. Here comes Odin dropping down, nothing else to drag. Extra Doom bots on the sides, Jeff registers, Nakia for a little power. That's not going to be enough, and a Mr. Sinister fills it up. Hold on. There you go. 2, 3, 4 cards. It is now, ooh, an Okoye, which puts that lane over the top. Dark Dimensions at 13 apiece, and that ends up being a tiebreaker win for Power On. Moving into game number 4 here, Power On going up against Yolato, I guess is how we'll pronounce you, with a Mount Vesuvius, so a little bit of a precarious turn 5, but luckily our deck is already built for that via Blink. Sitting on the Odin, Leader, Jeff, and Jubilee, liking that Jubilee, hoping for a top deck of some kind of getting that Blink out faster. We could now be also competing for the Sacred Timeline, as it is the first to fill, and we're going to get those 2 cards out via Jubilee. Maybe an Odin on top if we get a ramp mechanic out there, fill more cards into the hand. Looks like, yep, safe play to go ahead and try to fill out the Sacred Timeline at this given point. Third location's now going to make it a little bit harder, and luckily we have a movable second card available to us in Jeff, because we don't know who's going to fill it. If we see the Nakia, that could be a Brood maybe coming on down to, maybe it's a Surfer style build as our opponent, but instead trying to play into the 50-50 for us is the Jubilee now over in the left, rather than trying to get that ramp out, as we don't see a 5-cost card available in our hand yet. Jubilee drops down the Magneto as their Jubilee is going to pull on down, try to fill in for Sacred fast enough, and they get the big boy, Iron Man. So now the middle lane looking a little bit scarier. Okay. We're only sitting on a wave. It's turn 5. So your best probable scenario here is maybe dragging over something via the Magneto. You do have the Odin. I like the notion here of also playing wave solo in this case, because we could see a potential mechanic to ramp out that Blink and get some extra power on the board that way. So let's go ahead and wave. So we have 2 different scenarios in how we can play our final turn here. We could play a Red Hulk, we could play a Giganto, and we only end up with an Electro in our hands. So maybe dragging over the Jubilee to bring down that middle lane presents us an opportunity. 8 power in the right, and then go ahead and Odin on the left-hand side with that Jubilee, looking to maybe get an extra flip-flop that could happen in the Sacred Timeline. Because right now, let's be honest here, with Devil Dino on the board, that middle lane is gone. Here you go. Odin's going to hit that Jubilee, which is going to pull down the Blink out of our deck. That's going to swap out that big piece on your right and give us 11 power instead into the Sacred Timeline as the White Tiger comes on down, loads up that middle lane, and we're actually going to win that. Now, the scariest part about all of that, if that White Tiger had hit that right-hand lane, which it had a higher chance to do in that scenario, the wave plus Jeff would have led to another tiebreaker, and it would have ended up being a loss. But because of that swap out from Blink up into the Vision, we end up taking the lead no matter what. Also, hey, if you made it to this part of the video, here's some bonus content. Here's some gameplay of that Surfer deck in particular, Blink and Surf. Now, I want to showcase this one because Surfer is just my personal favorite type of deck to play. What's yours? Let me know down in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you all on the guest list. Here we go. Let's go into this Surfer style of deck as we open up our hand with Blink, Silver Surfer, Nova, and Forge. Now, Blink has this nice extra piece on turn 5 because if you don't pull that Killmonger, it really does feel bad having that Nova. Now you have another mechanic on turn 4 to go ahead and play a 3-cost card down plus Nova, then Blink transform that into either a 3-cost card or one of the 5-cost cards in this deck. I like the way that that line plays out. Instead, we're going to look at the Forge here into Cloning Vats, get lots of duplicated power repeatedly, and maybe blink out another Forge later on. It could be the Okoye even. You're still going to end up with 2 cards. Good way to fill up your hand as Squirrel Girls, plus America Chavez, plus Angel. Looks like we're playing into some type of Zoo deck, but Angel's on the board, so it could be a little precarious nevertheless. And now we're sitting on the Brood. Forge into Brood in the White Hot Room. That feels like it's going to be a very, very secure combination here as we get more Squirrels and Bucky Barnes, kind of confirming that death line, if you will, as it's a small competition for the White Hot Room right now. So if we play down the Sebastian Shaw for the 3-cost, maybe filling up the White Hot Room, it's guaranteed, but fills up a little awkwardly, and it is turn 4 where we want to use Blink. So instead, we're going to put down the 2 2s, get an extra copy back into our hand. The Deathlock destroys over in the Cloning Vats, puts a whole bunch of 11 power and another Deathlock back into their hand. Here goes a Forge for reinforcement, which is going to give us a 4-power Okoye, boosting up the entire deck. And now, even via that mechanic, we can now take advantage of Blink for the very first time in the Surfer deck as we sit on the Mockingbird. So yes, we do have the extra energy, Mockingbird or not, in our hand. So no matter what, Mockingbird is now going to be down on the battlefield. We now have Blink. That means the Okoye is guaranteed to transform into Sarah, whether we had the duplicate in the middle lane or not. So here comes the Mockingbird, put the reinforcement into your hand, and now you're sitting on 3 extra spots. That Mockingbird is at 1 in this scenario, could be at 2 in a former scenario if we didn't have the White Hot Room, but loaded on up. Mockingbird for 1, Sebastian Shaw most likely is the highest power, depending on the lane that we want to compete for, actually, because we could explode the Nova if we are going to straight up sacrifice that middle lane. If the Killmonger works on out to reinforce the right, that works too, but I think the extra power just on the Sebastian Shaw is the most important here. So whether we had that extra 3 power from the White Hot Room earlier or the Mockingbird as the Surfer ramps over that side and keeps us over the top in the White Hot Room and the sewer system as Bucky Barnes and Moon Girl drop on down, whether we fought for that middle lane with that extra power or not, Blink getting out that Sarah to get 3 cards down allowed us to be competitive over in the left-hand lane, and that is how we can use Blink in a Surfer deck. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Please come join me over on the guest list. I'd love to see you come be a part of our community, and thank you to Second Dinner for this opportunity. Hopefully, you'll see me again real soon. Cheers, everybody. Have a great day.